Hello guys and welcome back to Baron, and today I have some amazing news. I was today promoted towards being an ambassador for the game, so that's really exciting. And of course they dropped the Rainbow Six Silver heroes, so I kind of have to do the thing I've been doing for the past 2 times when they released some heroes. Go through their active abilities, their passive abilities, and how I think they could work in the game with other heroes, and of course, are they useful? Onwards to the new heroes. And first out is Nuke, who has an active ability called Hell Presence Reduction. Enter stealth and appear behind the lowest health percentage enemy, firing a flashbang shell, damaging the target for 40% ability power and confusing them for 3 seconds. Will repeat the attacks 2 more times on random enemies. So the first one seems to be that it goes for the lowest percentage, and then it will randomize for the remainder of the 2 attacks. Her passive ability is Deep Cover. Nuke is able to keep tabs on all enemies in the battle, and while any enemies are not being targeted, they will receive a negative 20% ability power. While it's not overly powerful, it's still good to know that usually when you play in lines, if you face off against the first one and there's 3 enemies in the lane, at least the other 2 will be able to have a 20% less ability power. Obviously we can see that when Nuke uses the active ability, she will go into stealth, go onto the enemy side, pick an enemy hero that has low health, which is useful because then you can use her more of as a sniping hero if you want, by activating her when she's about to maybe go off and, you know, kill off an enemy that's already low on health. She only does 40% ability power, which is not that strong, but she does give Confuse for 3 seconds, and then she will do this 2 more times on random enemies. So her active ability doesn't strike me as something powerful yet. I don't see how it can be utilized very effectively, unless of course you are facing off against a team that's already on the brink, about to die, like they have really low health. Then I can see the active ability. She goes around confusing them. But aside from that, her active is not that powerful. In my eyes, it's not that powerful. It's an awesome hero. I like the outfit and everything. But I would have preferred the active ability to maybe be a little bit bumped up. But currently, it's not impressing me as much. The Deep Cover ability is useful because in lanes, usually you'll be firing against the first enemy in the lane, which then means that the other 2 enemies in the lane will not be targeted. So at least they will have a negative 20% ability power. So she brings something to the team composition in that regard. So the next hero up is Maestro. Maestro has an active ability called Evil Eye. Deploy an Evil Eye to fire a charged up laser at the current target, burning all enemies in a line for 200% ability power over 8 seconds, and also weakening them for the duration. So yeah, not gonna lie, I'm a little bit intrigued about this Evil Eye ability, because it does burning, so it's a fire effect. It's a line, so you know, it's a laser shooting down a line, so you can hit multiple enemies, and multiple enemies, it seems, will be taking 200% ability power over a period of 8 seconds, and also weakening them. And I think this is going to be one of the heroes that I'll be targeting very early on to try and rank up. His passive ability is called Master. All enemies receive negative 50% shields. So if it works how I think it works, it means that Flycatcher and for instance Ayanna in this case, who are the ones that keep throwing shields all the time, or Lian with the passive who also gives out a shield, they are now 50% less effective. So if she would receive a shield for 100%, that shield now gives 50% shield instead. So, which is really good because it would be a counter towards shield. So this hero ticks all the boxes for me. A good passive ability while having a very dangerous active ability. And then we have Vigil. So he uses something called ERC-7. Apply stealth to all allies currently being targeted for 4 seconds, blinding any enemies targeting them for 2 seconds per enemy that targeted them. That's the active ability. The passive ability is out of sight, out of mind. Whenever an ally enters stealth, grant them 5% and then plus 0.01% ability power as lifesteal, which means they start off with 5, and then depending on their ability power based on this little math, you will receive more lifesteal while they're being stealth. So they're hiding, they're getting lifesteal, which means they'll heal up during the process, and they'll also receive plus 40% ability power for 5 seconds. So if this is something that's added on, for instance, let's say they have a flat, I'm just generalizing, let's say they have 100 ability power. So yeah, that means they would get 1 ability power added, which would then make it 6%. Would the other 40 ability power count at the same time? So they would have 140, giving them 1.4 lifesteal. I'm not sure on that yet. That would be amazing, because obviously that would grant all the heroes extra ability power for that duration, which would in turn also give them stronger powers when they use their active ability, but also give them more lifesteal. Obviously, so he'll trigger his active ability. Everybody goes into stealth if they're being targeted. If they've been targeted for a long time, they go into stealth. Blind the enemies so they won't hit as much back. And then they will also cast this ability out of sight, which will trigger automatically when active ability is cast. So they'll go into stealth, get some healing down, and then come back out again. So it's a pretty good support ability, but that's all it is. But yeah, Vigil seems like a solid support character, and I don't see anything that speaks to like that he's an amazing damage dealer, but it looks like he would be a very interesting choice for support, and I'm excited to see his addition into the game. Next up is Oryx. So Oryx has an active ability called Rame Dash. Dash with force at the current target, damaging all enemies in a line for 150 ability power, fearing enemies hit in cover, and stunning any others for 4 seconds. Okay, so we've already found out that there's 2 heroes being released in the 6 silver that has a line. One does 200% ability power in a straight line, and then we have another hero who does 150% ability power in a line. And his ability is quite interesting as well, because he's fearing any enemies that are in cover, and he stuns enemies that are outside for 4 seconds. So technically, if anyone is about to cast an ability, just trigger Ramesh, and he should cancel that ability by stunning them. His passive ability is Recharge. When healed for more than 1% health, gain 50% ability charge, and heal for an additional 100% ability power over 5 seconds. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty amazing. I mean, if you have Lian who drops the little shield on him, so I feel like he could be like a tank character, to be honest, because his passive ability would trigger and then heal him up, and then Lian will cast shield. So I think that he could be a very possible new tank that will basically just stand around and be healed and tank everything. His active ability is also interesting, because it's not often you find something that could be considered a tank. Yes, I say tank very loosely in this regard, but if this character can keep healing himself up over and over, then I would consider him a tank. His active ability is quite damaging as well. So passive ability makes sure he stays alive in the game for a long time. His active ability, dish out a ton of damage. Alright, next up is Wamai. Wamai. Guys, please help me. Please correct me. I didn't have time to research this, but name, please. Which of the 3 attempts I just made was correct, or neither? Anyway, the active ability was Magnet. He throws a magnet device at the current target, pulling all the metal explosives from all enemies in a large radius to its center and detonating them, damaging all enemies in the radius for 50% ability power per enemy in the radius. I already had a joke lined up for this, because I mean, you know, Buck and the endless grenade spam. I mean, that guy must carry like 100 grenades, so if you pop this off on him, he should just instantly die, right? Because when you throw this magnet, you will hit the front person, you will hit the person behind him, and the person next to him on either side. So if you can position him, or you find that there's an opponent in the middle lane, and there's one above and one below, or maybe even one behind, then it might be the best ability to throw a magnet in the middle so you hit as many opponents as possible, and thus making more damage. But it seems like on a 1-on-1, it's not that amazing, because yeah, he'll pull some explosives, but it won't in any way really hinder the opponent. It doesn't stun them, it doesn't concuss them, it doesn't make them blind, confuse, anything. It just damage. There's no additional effect added to it. I feel like if it's supposed to pin the grenades, maybe they should do bleed. Maybe it should have done something like confuse. That's just my thinking, and I feel like that should have been added to it. His passive ability is at ease. Wamai's calm presence puts all allies at ease and permanently applies -5% critical chance to all enemies. So Wamai to me seems like a hero that could have potential, but his passive ability is slightly underwhelming. -5% critical chance, it's not something that's a huge deal breaker, so the reason you would pick him would probably be just because of the active ability. Sure, the passive would be a nice bonus, but it doesn't come with a huge impact in the game. The magnet, however, I suppose if they niched it just a little bit by giving it maybe bleed or something else added to it, because then you could use him together with, for instance, other heroes that work well, like Gridlock, for instance. I keep mentioning Gridlock a lot because of bleed, for instance, and Tachanka, because they like when people are trapped and they bleed. But not only that, but blind or confused, something added, because, I mean, they're pulling the pins and they're pulling the grenades and detonating them. I mean, something should happen from it, not just damage. But yeah, the active ability is, it's okay. The passive ability, not so much. Next up is Ayanna, Gemini Replicator. That's the active ability. Enter stealth and spawns a Gemini Replicator hologram behind your current target, taunting any enemies in a large radius to attack it for 2 seconds. Enemies that attack the target have their position compromised and are thus weakened for 8 seconds. Alright. And the passive ability is AR lenses. Whenever an enemy receives a control effect, pinpoint their location and damage them for 100% ability power. Wait, what? That, like, why would they give a hero -5% critical chance on the enemy team and then give another hero like, okay, when you receive a control effect on the enemy, which is already a problem for the enemy, then and then they just give them, here's an additional 100% ability power damage. It's like, okay, so I don't know. I like that, the possibility. I like it because you have a wide range of options to throw around control effects, and while doing that you also damage them for 100% ability power. So I feel like that's just her passive. Her active ability, it's okay because it's more of a defensive structure. So while she's doing damage, she also will protect the team by using the Gemini Replicator. So yeah, Ayanna, I like. This is the problem now, because they keep releasing a lot of good heroes, and they're they could be very competitive. So I really like Ayanna. I like Maestro. And then we have Capito. Capito has a tactical crossbow as his active ability. He fires a glass bolt at the current target. If Capito has more than 50% health, he will fire an asphyxiating bolt, burning all enemies in a large radius for 250% ability power. Holy shit, excuse me, but damn. Over 5 seconds. If Capito has less than 50% health, he will instead fire a micro smoke grenade, damaging all enemies in a large radius for 100% ability power and blinding them for 5 seconds. So that's interesting. He has 2 modes. So depending on his health, if he has more than 50, so if you keep him above 50, he will keep firing this really damaging bolt. If you keep him below 50, he will still, try to protect himself using this smoke grenade instead. Passive ability. When being taunted, immediately remove it and weaken the enemy who applied it for 5 seconds. Okay, so aside from the fact that he has an amazing crossbow that does insane damage, he ignores being taunted. and will also apply weaken to the one who made it. So yeah, Capito is I gotta say, is a well-versed hero, as a fairly okay passive, but yeah, the active ability is probably the one that's going to be the deal breaker for this one. So I have to admit that's a really good active ability. I don't think I need to say more. It's just good. It's just truly amazing. I like it. And then we have Blitz. Everybody knows Blitz, right? If you play Rainbow Six Siege. Flash Shield. Activates the flash charges in his shield, blinding all enemies in a large cone for 4 seconds and damaging any enemies targeting you for 75% ability power. Okay, so in a lane, this is good because it will damage any enemies that are targeting you. So in a lane of 3, for instance, I keep coming back to 3, but in a lane of 3, you will be hitting all 3, won't you? So you'll be giving them a lot of damage at the same time. So that's good. I like all these large cone, large radius, all these large blasts, and now line. His passive ability is G52 Tactical Shield. Permanently reflects 10% damage received back at the attacker. So that's a passive ability. The damage will just keep on being bounced back to the enemy as he's taking damage. So yeah, that's pretty good actually, because obviously if you put him up in a tank position, he'll take some damage, but at the same time he'll be sending 10% of that back. So overall, it seems like a very well-versed hero. So I think that looks good. I like it. I like it a lot. So enough said about Blitz. Now let's get back to Capito. So guys, that was pretty much it. These are the heroes that I've mentioned. They do have some good abilities. I think some heroes are better than others. Some I feel could have just a slight little tweak based on their abilities, like I mentioned. So guys, from what I know, the developers have informed us that in the next week, most likely next week, depending on how much they already have to do, but presumably next week, they will release another Special Forces ORB, which will contain these heroes. It will not replace the existing one, which is really important. It will not replace. They will be side by side. And the keys that you receive from the weekly events that you keep, from the achievement that you do in the daily objectives, in the objective section, not daily, in the objective section, these keys are used to unlock either of these orbs. So you can choose depending on what heroes you would like to chase or that you want, and you can unlock either for Rainbow Six Gold or Rainbow Six Silver. So yeah, and then these are the heroes that will be in that box. With that said, happy hunting guys!